Good afternoon. Mr. Souter, you may call your next witness.
Thank you, Judge. At this time, the people would call Ryan Baxter to testify. Officer, when you are fully seated there, if you could scoot up to the mic and state your full name and spell your last name for the record.
Ryan Baxter, Baxter.
And officer, are you currently employed?
Yes, I am.
With who?
Midland City Police Department.
How long have you been with Midland PD for?
About a month.
And how many total years of experience do you have as a police officer?
Just under 7.
Okay. Back on August 10th of last year, 2020, where were you employed at that time?
City of Saginaw.
Okay. And how many years did you have with the city?
Just over 6.5.
Now, at roughly 8:30 in the morning on that date, August 10th of 2020, were you dispatched to a venue near the intersection or at the intersection of William Street and South Granger Street here in the city of Saginaw?
Yes, sir, I was.
And what was the nature of that dispatch?
Domestic.
And you say domestic, is that referring to a potential domestic assault?
Yes, sir, domestic assault.
And did you meet with a victim at that location at roughly that time?
Yes, sir.
And who did you meet with?
Without referring to my report right now, I don't recall her name off the top of my head.
Okay. Judge, if I may approach.
You may.
I'm going to show you page 2 of 3, just to refresh your recollection, hopefully, about her name.
Yep.
Officer, did that refresh your recollection?
Yes, sir, it did.
And who did you meet with?
Alexa Van Warmer.
Okay. And at that time, did you take or get some statements from Ms. Van Warmer about a potential assault that recently took place?
Yes, sir, I did.
And who did Ms. Van Warmer indicate to you that assaulted her?
Your
She
Honor,
said
I'd
her-
object. This is hearsay. We've already heard from Ms. Van Warmer.
Judge, you made a previous ruling under 768.27C about statements from the declarant as they're allowed to come in.
You still need to lay a foundation for the hearsay statement, Mr.
A foundation?
Yeah, he said he's objects based upon hearsay. What's the hearsay objection that we can allow this in under?
3 things, Judge. Present sense impression, excited utterance, and specifically this was covered in the motion that I filed to get these statements in under MCL 768.27C that was granted.
I understand what they're coming in under, but you still need to lay a foundation. He's objected to the basis of them. So you need a foundation for the hearsay exception to come in. I understand what ruling they're covered under. Lay a foundation.
Okay, thank you. And officer, I'll retract that question for the time being. Did you ask some questions of Ms. Van Warmer on that in that early morning hours on August 10th?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And in general, what type of case were you investigating at that time?
Domestic assault, so I was just checking on who she was with and who assaulted her.
And did some of your questions relate to domestic violence or domestic assault?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And did you understand or learn the relationship between Ms. Van Warmer and Latrell King?
Yes, sir. She stated they had a dating relationship.
Okay. And for the events that took place, did she indicate to you how far in the past they occurred before you started to speak with her?
Let me stop the questions and let me stop the answer. Until I say he's laid a foundation, you can't say what she told you. Okay?
Yes, sir.
All right. What? I'm not going to lay a foundation for you. Lay a foundation for the hearsay exception.
Judge, I don't think it's the natural hearsay exception that I'm relying on. It's a statute.
Still to come in, Mr. Souter, it has to be a foundation laid for the statement to come in. He's made a hearsay objection.
Okay, thank you. And officer, did you arrive shortly after the call was made to dispatch?
Yes, sir.
Objection as to leading, but I would let that go.
Okay, please let it go. Let me ask you, what was her state of mind when you saw her? Was she excited? Was she calm? How was she?
Upset.
Okay.
Upset. Speaking fast.
And how would you describe her demeanor overall?
A little below frantic.
Okay. Now, ask the question.
Thank you, Judge. Now, did you have a chance to ask and get answers to what actually happened between her and Latrell King?
Yes, sir, I did.
And what did you ask her?
I asked her why she came over there and what transpired up until the point that I arrived.
And what did she indicate to you?
She stated that she was contacted by Latrell King Jr. to come over to his house to have sex. She said she drove over there to that intersection and waited for him because it's close to his house. She said he got into her vehicle with her. They started talking. She said that she did not want to have sex with him, and that started an argument. Eventually, the argument led to outside the car when she said she tried to calm things down. And she said that she was grabbed and pushed down to the ground.
Okay. And did you have a chance to see whether or not Miss Van Warmer had any injuries?
Yes, sir. She had some minor injuries on her elbow and her hand.
Okay, and you could see those yourself?
Yes, sir.
And did she indicate those injuries were suffered from that assault that recently took place?
Yes, sir.
Did you have any contact yourself with Latrell King on that date?
No, sir. When we got there, she advised us that he had gotten into a vehicle and left.
Thank you. Judge, I have no more further questions for this witness.
Questions, Mr. Crawford?
No, Your Honor.
You may step down, officer. Call your next witness, Mr. Souter.
Thank you, Judge. People will call Officer Atha to testify. Officer, when you get seated, can you pull yourself up to the mic and state your full name and spell your last name for the record, please?
Yes, it's Jared Robert Atha, A-T-H-A.
And are you currently employed, officer?
Yes, with Saginaw Township Police Department,
What type of role
patrol officer,
and for how long?
8 years,
How many total years of law enforcement experience do you have?
11 years.
And back on July 15th of 2020, so almost a year ago, did you have contact with the individual by the name of Alexa Van Warmer at your police department?
Yes, I did.
And on that date, did Miss Van Warmer come in to make a report to you?
Yes,
And was anyone else with her that you also obtained statements from on that date?
yes, her roommate was.
Okay. And do you know the roommate's name?
Denicia, I believe it's pronounced. Denicia, sorry, last name here. Denicia Armstrong, I believe is how you pronounce her first name.
Thank you. And in your line of work as a road patrol officer, you get dispatched to physical places most of the time, correct?
Yes, sir.
Will you sometime take what are called walk-in reports?
Yes, sir.
Can you describe what those generally are?
Generally, something happened, an incident occurred somewhere, whether it's at a house or business, and the person wasn't able to report it at that time for whatever reason, so they come into our department when they're able to make that same report.
And are walk-in reports or walk-in statements common for your line of work?
Very common.
And at that time, do you recall roughly what time of the day that they arrived at the police department and you interviewed them?
Yes, I believe it was around 7 in the morning.
And can you describe the demeanor of Alexa Van Warmer when you would have started speaking with her?
She was pretty shaken up. You could tell something had happened to her, just that was kind of traumatic for her to talk about.
And did you actually have a chance to take statements about a potential assault that occurred a little bit before she came into the police department?
Yes.
Okay. And what did Miss Van Warmer indicate happened prior to her coming in to make the report?
And Your Honor, I'd object under 403. I feel that this is confusing and misleading on the ultimate issues here. Talking about an incident in July, we're here for October the 18th.
I understand, Mr. Crawford. Pursuant to my previous rulings, I'd allow this information to come in. Proceed.
Thank you, Judge. What was the nature of the claims that Miss Van Warmer had and gave to you?
She said she was hanging out earlier that night and into the morning hours with Latrell. And while in Bridgeport Township, she was assaulted by him At that time, her phone was taken. Apparently, she was able to get a ride from Bridgeport Township back to Saginaw Township where she lives. And while she was at her house in Saginaw Township, she was assaulted again by Latrell.
Okay. And did she claim that she suffered any physical injuries based on those assaults?
Yeah, she said her left leg was injured, left foot, and then she claimed of strangulation when she was assaulted at her residence in Saginaw Township.
Did you observe any physical injuries on her body or on her person while you were interviewing her?
There wasn't strangulation marks around her neck, but there was injury to her foot. And
Okay.
she complained of pain in the leg.
Have you dealt with other calls that involve the claim of choking or strangulation?
Yes.
Are there always noticeable injuries when that's claimed?
No, there's not.
Okay. And in your training and experience, have you dealt with other cases that involved assault where there was no visible injuries?
Yes, I have.
Okay. But nonetheless, you stated that she complained of leg pain and she had an injury to her foot, I believe.
Correct.
All right. And did you take photographs of the victim on that date?
Yes, I did. Standard procedure when we have a claim of an assault that is involved in a domestic situation.
If I may approach, Judge.
You may.
Officer, those are People's Exhibit 1 and 2. Do those photographs look familiar to you?
Yes, those are the photos I took of Alexa.
Okay. Did you take more than just those two on that date?
Probably not.
All right.
There might be one more of her face or just to identify that this is her body as well.
Thank you. And did you have a chance to interview Miss Armstrong as well?
Yes. She was with Alexa when they made the report.
Did you have any contact with the defendant, Latrell King, on that date?
I did not.
Just a moment, Your Honor.
Questions, Mr. Crawford?
No, Your Honor.
You may step down.
Yes, sir.
Call your next witness, Mr. Sauter. You may.